Hi everyone, so we're back in the Vault Performance Gym yet again with Dr. Brendan McLaughlin. We're going to do a little follow-on from the previous video where we focused on the pelvis position. We're going to tie in that stuff to looking at the setup from face on and influences on rotation with a focus on the hips. So Brendan, thanks yet again. Over to you. What do you look for when we're kind of looking at that stuff?
Yeah, again, to speak to what we talked about last week, it's really about setup-wise, getting people into positions where they can access the most range of motion, right? So if you set up and we're looking face on, one of the big things that I find is people set up far too wide. So the wider I am, I start to decrease available range of motion into my pelvis, my hip, my knee, and my ankle. Now, that can be advantageous for certain things. If I'm hitting a driver or certain shots, absolutely. But generally, that's something that starts to creep in with players, is understanding that the wider they go, kind of the less lower body rotation and pelvic rotation they have, so then they're going to start compensating and doing other things. The other thing, too, from a face-on perspective is just making sure that, you know, when I set up, if my hips and my knees and my feet can be in somewhat alignment, there's going to be variations depending on different people's anatomy and different adaptations and compensations that people have. But what we don't want to see is one knee sort of way in or one knee sort of way out and these kind of things, and how that affects what the foot's doing and how that affects what the knee and the hip is doing has a dramatic change on kind of how you move into your backswing.
So for most people from face on,
yep,
just getting in the mirror and making sure that sort of ankle, knee, hip, all under each other would be a good start point.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good starting point. Again, different people are going to have sort of semi-different anatomy and different compensations, so some people would be more comfortable with their feet a little flared out, and different variations on that, but even in those variations, we still can sort of maintain somewhat of an alignment between the hip, knee, and the foot.
I like that, and that's where coming to someone like yourself or a professional that can actually screen an individual,
yeah,
and look at, you know, what range they have around the hip, what's going on at the ankle, things like that. That's what you do with the best players out there to help them find their optimum start position, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the other thing I wanted to quick touch on is when you're looking down the line.
So we'll go back to that way.
And we sort of talked about it a little bit last time, but one of the things I just wanted to reiterate is what my low back and pelvis is doing has a direct effect on how much hip range of motion I have, and then subsequently what my knee and my foot are doing. So if Ian really tries to arch his back, the more he does this, the less available hip range of motion he has here. Now, for certain athletes that just naturally have a ton of range of motion through their hips, they might be able to get away with that. But for most of us who don't, for every sort of degree we move here, we lose degrees through here. So we really want to be cognizant of not only alignment face on, but then what we're doing kind of in through the back and looking at it from a down the line perspective.
All right, so matching up the face on down the line, just really key for an individual to understand, just understanding for themselves how to get that range in the hip.
Yep.
And that's why we see with each individual player, the range they'll move through backswing, through the ball, there really is no optimum amount of rotation. It's more the value of how you're going to rotate for you.
Right, exactly.
And then using that information that we can get from 3D motion capture now, or any other way that we can measure it, whether you sometimes kind of vaguely looking at it on camera, it's finding out what's best for the individual.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to is matching the movement to the individual in the context of golf, not trying to gain some kind of ideal golf swing or golf setup posture or anything like that.
Okay, so again, just there's some more things to go and look at yourself using the mirror there from face on. Thanks once again, Brendan.